All right, welcome everyone. It is another edition of our Elevate coaching call. I feel really excited to be meeting with everyone today. Welcome to our new members. Over the past couple of days, I think we've had three new members join us. So, welcome to all of our new members. It's such a joy to have you here and such a joy to get to walk alongside you. When I started the Elevate community last year in October 2024, I didn't really know how it would go, who would come, but each of you, your commitment to raise your hand and say, Yawa, yes, I need someone like you, speaking in my ears, helping me to figure things out and craft the right path for myself is just something that encourages me deeply. And your trust in me is something I do not take for granted. So I just really want to say hello and welcome to, especially to all of our new members who may, for whom this is your first coaching call. So, my name is Yawa Hansen-Quao. You know that already because many of you who signed up recently were at a training that I did or a talk that I did. And you know that I'm really passionate about results. I'm an advisor. I've been working as a coach for many leaders, mostly women, but increasingly men. And I feel so pumped about the opportunity to walk alongside a greater number of people in this chapter of my life where God has helped me navigate through so much in my own leadership journey, in my professional journey, and in my walk with Him. So my vision is to, serve 1,000 people through this initiative. And, you'll look at our numbers. We're not quite there yet, but I do not despise the days of small beginning because God rejoices to see the work begin and to see the work that has begun in many of us and the changes that people are seeing, the initiatives that people are launching, the hope that people are having, and the strategic guidance that is being shared in this community makes me so thankful for each of you who said yes. So today I really want to walk you through some three strategies that I think are very important for us to elevate. And the name of this community is Elevate, and it's a deliberate choice of name because elevation is something we all seek for. I don't know about you, but if I work for a company, I want elevation. I want my money to elevate. I want my title to elevate. If you are in a marriage, you want your marriage to elevate. You want your relationship to grow deeper and richer and more loving and more caring. You want prosperity out of that. And I believe that that's actually a godly desire. The Bible says that above all things, God wishes that we prosper and be in health as our souls prosper. Meaning, God also has an expectation of our elevation. So I looked up what elevation means, and these are the two definitions that I really liked from the dictionary. So the first one says to elevate means to raise or to lift something to a higher position, right? And that seems obvious to raise something to a higher position. And if you've ever been in an elevator, that's exactly what an elevator does. An elevator lifts something to a higher position. You're on the ground floor and you want to go to the 30th floor of a building. I don't want to take the stairs. You want an elevator, something that helps you to raise yourself to a new and higher position without struggle. Another definition of elevate that I really liked was to raise to a more important or more prominent position or more impressive level. And this definition I love because some of us, we have been raised, right? Maybe in our friend group or in our family, we're the most significant person there is. But you know that there's more. You know that there is a more impressive version of you, a level 10 version of you that you haven't quite manifest yet. And that's who this Elevate community is for. My favorite definition of elevation comes from Bishop T.D. Jakes, who says it's when your ceiling becomes your floor. The things that used to be a ceiling over your head become the floor under your feet. And I want to remind us of these definitions. Some of you heard me share these definitions in a recent talk that I gave. Some of you may have heard me use the expression from T.D. Jakes about the ceiling becoming your floor. But because we've got new members in the house today, I really want us to come back to the same page before I dig into the strategies that I think we all have to revisit or learn in order for this year to be more successful. See, in our last conversation, I talked to you about the fact that I realized I had slowed down on certain things. I wasn't taking massively productive actions. I was getting in my head and overthinking things. And I needed this message myself, which is why I felt like it would be important to dig into what are the three strategies. You see, when I look over my life, the picture you see on the left is a picture of me when I was 6 years old. I'm what you might call a multicultural African. So, formative years of my life were spent in the US because my family left Ghana shortly after the military coup that ousted President Hilali Man, right? So I grew up very, I was a happy child and all of that, but because I was growing up in a multicultural environment, I was not mentally and psychologically prepared for what happened to us, which was most people didn't understand Africa. They didn't like the sound of my name. They felt like we spoke funny. Um, by then, I didn't speak much English. In fact, I learned how to speak English in the US. And so I became very insecure and unsure of myself. I don't know how many of you can identify with that, feeling insecure and unsure. Just let me know in the chat box. Then I started to feel like everybody else is better than me. We lived in a community that had white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. It was a multicultural community, but we were one of very few Africans in that community. They laughed at our food. They said our food smelled bad. They couldn't understand when my parents spoke, you know. And so, although I grew up generally a happy child, I was in an environment where I started doubting myself. Can anything good come out of me? I wanted so badly to be someone else. In fact, my mother always reminds me that I told her I wanted to change my name, that I wanted to change my name to Amanda Johnson because that name was easier to pronounce. And I wanted a name that sounded like all the other American names. Everyone seemed better than me, and I just could not feel comfortable in my skin. You see, some of you know it's time to elevate, but you have this insecurity that's eating at you every time you try to take a step. Every time you try to move forward, there's that voice saying you're not good enough. You don't fit in. Nobody needs you. Nobody wants you. Nobody loves you. Nobody wants what you have to give. Shut your mouth. Maybe it's the voice of teachers in the past who were saying things like, you're no good at this subjects. You'll never amount to anything. Maybe it's a voice of your parent or a loved one in your family who, although they meant good, they traumatized you and made you feel as if you couldn't do anything. That's what I had to overcome. See, this girl on the left who didn't like herself, who didn't like the sound of her voice, who was teased. So many people used to tease me that I sounded like a boy or a man. And I wouldn't raise my hand to answer questions because I felt so insecure about what I sounded like. But I tell you, these strategies that I want to teach you today are the same strategies that help me transform from the girl on the left who was insecure, unsure, low self-esteem, wanting to be like everybody else, to the girl you see, the woman you see on the right. This is me. This is a picture I took in front of the White House just before our meeting with President Barack Obama. And I remember having this visual in my head that how does this girl, Yawa, who wanted to change her name to Amanda Johnson just so she could fit in, how did she end up here? And I want to talk to you about what that journey's been. And I want to share it not to self-aggrandize, but to let you know no matter how low you feel about yourself, no matter how low you feel you are, no matter how much you discount yourself, there's hope. I never knew that God could take me through a process to metamorphose me into this version of me today that speaks around the world, that is a friend to presidents and heads of states, that has mentors in high places. I never knew. This photo was from a few weeks ago when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the former president of Liberia, who's my dear mentor and friend, was in town for the inauguration of President John Mahama here in Ghana. And there was, a series of different events that were organized in addition to the swearing in, which she was in town for. And I had the honor of accompanying her to one of them. And so many people in that room that know me in Ghana, when I walked into this room with this woman on my side, everybody, everybody's like, oh my goodness, Yawa. Oh, call me. Yawa. Oh, yeah, it's been a long time. Everybody, in fact, people who I used to beg to return my calls, people who I used to beg to be in the same space with are now clamoring to talk to me. This is what God does when you yield to the process of elevation. You see, I'm sharing this because I want you to know I'm not talking a talk that I'm not walking. I'm not asking you to step into practices and I'm not giving you insights that I am not myself using and reaping a result from. And tell you, it is possible to go fast and it's possible to go far if you will apply the strategies that I'm going to talk to you about today, which are very, very simple. And in fact, you probably already know them in your head, but you've not put focused intention and time and energy into making it your highest priority. I remember when I was up speaking at that event, I told the story that I just told you about being a multicultural African growing up in a society where so many people discounted me, and how if it wasn't for role models and mentors like President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, I don't know that I could have something to reach for. See, mentorship and coaching matters. And that's really why this Elevate community holds a special place in my heart. See, I know many of you are hungry for a new version of you. And I'm sharing my journey because I want you to know that I know exactly what it's like to feel less than, unimportant, discounted, left behind, and no good. In fact, I grew up in a household where every day they would sing the praises of one of my siblings who they felt was the anointed one in the family. And I used to feel so insignificant, like, okay, if this one is the anointed one, what are the rest of us doing here? I don't know if any of you can identify with that. This feeling like even in your household, people do not see you. They do not recognize you. They think, can any good thing come out of you? So I want to speak to the insecure parts that many of us might be experiencing because two things can and probably coexist at the same time. You probably are someone who has high hopes and ambitions for yourself. You have dreams. Maybe some of you have received prophetic words about who you're meant to be, who you're supposed to be, but you probably feel like the gap between who you are now and who you're supposed to be is too wide. I'm here to tell you it's not. You see, all you need to do is decide. Decide. I'm going to say that again. Decide. Can you just type that in the chat box? Let me make sure you're with me. Decide. Decide. Decide who you're going to be this year. Decide what people will say about you. Decide whose report you're going to believe. Because if I kept letting this girl on the left be the only version of me that I hold on to, you would not see this woman here. And I tell you, when I look at my life, look at the access God has given me with people in high places, the people who are mentoring me, the people who I get to serve through my business, the people who I get to counsel through my coaching, the people who I get to mentor through my speaking, the people, yesterday I was with a group of women from MTN Ghana, and, these are leaders in their tech space. And I tell you, they wouldn't let me leave the room. I had another appointment to go through too, but they were holding on to my every word. And I said, look at this. This girl on the left who was afraid to raise her hand and talk is now this woman right here that people don't want to let go out of the room. In fact, someone posted on LinkedIn last night that MTN put together a wonderful event for us women in technology, but the highlight of the event was Yawa Hansen-Quao. And I went to bed thinking, oh my Lord, see how things change. But things change not because you wish, but because you decide. So, ladies, we're at a decision point. Like, are you deciding to remain the version of you that you currently are? Or are you deciding to reach for this version of you that looks like nothing you've come from? Because my parents used to say, we're a poor family. We don't have much. Don't go out there getting in trouble. Don't go out there hanging out with rich people because look, we don't have much. And although advice like that was well intentioned, that's the type of advice that keeps you small because no one gets big without daring or risking. Can I be honest and tell you some of the risks that I took? Tell me if I can, feel free in the chat box. Let me know if I can just get real, let you under the hood on some of the risks that I ended up taking to be this version of me. Okay, thank you for permission. Because honestly, people, when you decide comes from the root word day, means to cut off. Decide is not a pretty word. Decide means I am cutting off any other option that stands in the way of me becoming who I know God has called me to be. So let me talk to you about some of the things I had to cut off. I had to cut off some friendships, people who had been good to me in the past, but my conversations and my time spent with them was low value. And I know this may sound judgmental, but I think each of us needs to have a more high standard for who gets our time. Can you just type, I'm raising my standards in the chat box? It is time to raise your standard about who you spend time with and what you spend time on. I had to decide, which means to cut myself off from different things. Raising your standard means that not everyone gets to spend time with you. Raising your standard means your standard expectation of self may not look like everybody else's. Raising the standard means that, look, when people your age are into music and comedy and all sorts of things, you might need to be reading books. This is exactly what I started to do. In fact, people told me I was too known. I was some way. But we all went to the school. Who do you think you are? Especially when I stopped speaking pidgin English. I said, look, I know this is fun and games, but for where I see myself going, this is not going to be helpful. So if I speak English, I want to speak English correctly and fully. Then they say, hey, as for you, you are prim pro. You are this, you are that. So when you decide you're cutting off certain things, it won't always be popular with people. When you decide that I remember my husband and I had a big argument when he saw how much I was paying to work with an image consultant because I decided that I want to be an international speaker. I decided that I want to know how to put myself together to attract the kind of opportunities that I wanted to start having. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of cities on my personal development over the past 19 years because I decided I want to be a professional version of myself that doesn't look like everybody else, that is above, head and shoulders above everyone else. You see, when you raise your standards, it is going to be hard for you. It's going to be hard for you because people like the version of you that makes them comfortable. People like the version of you that doesn't challenge them or provoke them. People like the version of you that is soft and malleable to their whims. But I tell you, if you are the only Oga in your group right now, you're in the wrong group. If you're the only big person, the only successful person, the only one striving and reaching, the one who gets all the praise, you're in the wrong group. Who's ready to raise their standard? You see, raising your standards, my people, will mean that you probably may have to leave some friend groups. You probably may have to bring people that you currently have on the inner circle to the outer circles. It means that you probably need to invest in ways that you never thought you would. Look, can I be honest? I borrowed $12,000 to go to Protocol School of Washington. It was not cheap. It nearly cost me a friendship because it took me longer than I expected to pay back the money that I owed to the friend I took it from. It nearly cost me a relationship because I just knew I needed to go. And the time that I was going, I entered one of their competitions, so they waived a significant part of my cost, but I still had to buy a ticket. I still had to pay for the accommodation, and they don't host this thing at a cheap hotel. It's the Ritz-Carlton, baby. So I had to be prepared, but I was like, well, instead of the old me would have looked for someone who I could crash on their couch. The old me would have looked for some way to get there cheaply and then hustle. But I felt that I needed the full experience because I do not come from money. And I needed to understand what a luxury hotel looks like. I needed to understand what it's like to be in that luxurious environment. I needed to understand. And so I was willing to pay a price that most people thought was stupid. Can I be honest? I was made to feel stupid by my friend who I borrowed the money from when she found out what I did with the money, from my husband who couldn't quite understand why I was quote unquote forcing myself to be on a certain level that I'm not at. I was told by friends who found out what I had done that, bah, we did here. What is that? Do you know how much kinky we could have bought with this money you've gone to blow? You see, some of you, to get to your next level, you're going to have to spend in ways that people think are crazy. I blew the money. I went to this experience. I connected, and my life has not been the same since. In fact, part of the package included a speaker's coach. So I not only got the protocol and etiquette training, I also got to work with my first one-on-one speaker coach, Sue Galkey, who helped me transform the way I present. I have made that money over and over and over and over again. That 12,000, that was a big investment for me back then. I have made it over and over and again and then some. See, in the moment, decisions are hard. In the moment, decisions make you think you're crazy. But now I primarily make money by speaking. Look, I remember, there's a company that invited me to South Africa to speak. They bought all my books, paid me $10,000, gave me like first class treatment, picked up in a S class, C class, whatever it was, Mercedes. I mean, the perks. But it's part of the investment that I needed to make in my own education so that when I was in distinguished company, I knew how to handle it. When I was in distinguished restaurants, I know how to handle myself. When I'm in a distinguished environment, it's not new to me. Because this picture that you see of me at the White House, that happened 3 years after I invested in protocol school. I borrowed the money, didn't know where it would come from, but I could see that there was something on the horizon that I needed to be prepared for. Is this making sense? How many of you need to hear this? Because I cannot tell you how this feels like fire in my belly right now. That some of us are stuck playing small, but we don't have to. because we're in the wrong company. We're hearing the wrong people. And instead of raising the bar of our ambitions, we've just lowered it to the standard of everyone who's around us. Now I'm in a community of people who, with compared to whom my business is the smallest. But when I'm talking to Ghanaians, they're like, hey, how are you? I'm making it. Hey, Chale, things are going well. Hey, what? They make me feel good. And I had to realize that, look, I'm the only old guy in this group. I'm in the wrong group. Because when I started my coaching business, and no disrespect to them, when I started my coaching business, there were other people who were also starting around the same time. But it looks as though I've far surpassed them. So they can no longer be my immediate circle of reference because now they are impressed by me. And can I tell you a truth? When people start being overly impressed by you, it may be time to move to a different realm where people are no longer impressed. I'm now in a group of people that I am trying to catch up with. And that's where growth happens when you're being stretched, when you're being challenged, when people are looking at what you're doing, be like, I think you could do this differently. I think you could do it this way. I think you could change that. See, some of us have stopped growing because we didn't switch environments. I don't know if you feel like I'm shaking tables, but I do feel like my temperature is rising because I really want you to get this. This week, I've been studying the story of Elijah. God sent him to the brook and he was being fed by ravens. But at a certain point in time, the brook went dry and he needed a different way to be provided for. And I think that that's where some of you are right now. You're trying to get the same provision in the same place. And God's basically saying you're in the wrong place. Like I did send you here and it was good for a season, but you need some new voices. You need some new environments. You need to expose yourself because if I kept thinking of myself as the poor immigrant girl from America that nobody liked, who has a deep voice that nobody listens to, I wouldn't have pursued a version of me that blows my family's imagination, that blows my friends' imagination. This past weekend, I was on a virtual call with my Achimota School year group. And so many of them were like, what? Like, yeah, what? Like to hear my peers say things that my clients say to me told me that, Lord, you've made me wiser than many of my teachers. And I'm not saying this to gloat. Don't misunderstand me. I'm saying this to say that when you decide and you start cutting off from the wrong environments and the wrong people, and you start investing in things that you know are necessary for your next level, in the moment, it's going to be painful. You can ask these same coaching friends. They used to give me money because I invested deeply in things that they wouldn't invest in. They used to look at the shoes that I wear, the clothes that I wear, and be like, oh, she's suffering. In fact, some of them used to like show me mercy by buying me dresses and things like that. But I had a picture of the future, which looked way better than where I was currently, and I was ready to do whatever. Are you ready to do what it takes? Because in our last call, I told you something that I felt God was speaking to me that I think was for all of us, which is, are you just doing what's convenient and comfortable, or are you doing the needful? Are you doing what's required to get what you want to get in the end? You see, I didn't hear a voice from heaven. I'll be honest. I didn't hear God say to me, Yahweh, go to Protocol School of Washington. But I did have a strong inkling that my history and my immediate circumstances cannot teach me what I need to know about power. It cannot teach me how to walk with people in power because I don't come from money. I don't come from a strong political heritage. I don't come from these circles where things that you need to learn, you can just learn through osmosis. How many of you have been learning by osmosis? So I read books like Mentored by a Millionaire, right? Because I want to get into my millions this year. Like I want to be mentored by people who walk in that realm, which is why my coach, I'm hiring a coach who's made hundreds of millions in this type of business that I'm in because I want to walk in the realm of that. So I taught you in our last conversation that if you want to go in a specific direction, find someone who's already been there and invest in learning from them. Because part of how you ignite change is by submission. Look, it has been a hard journey. I will not lie. This decision to go through this business coaching program has been hard. It cost me $10,000 to sign up. It's cost me about another $3,000 to get some of the required resources. It's costed me a whole bunch, like I am burning through money to be part of this community. But I understand that decisions are hard in the moment. And some of you need to hear this. You just have to go short term hard so that in the long term it is easy. Just like how I've been on this 19-year journey with my public speaking, working with different coaches now to a place where I am comfortable being able to give a keynote address. In fact, I'm not allowed to show you the audience, which is why I'm only showing you the picture of me talking. I got these pictures today from the organizer of this really high level dinner event. I'm in the room with the who's who of Africa, and they're listening to my voice. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that this same insecure, unsure of herself, unwilling to be called African girl named Yawa is now the one on whose every word leaders of high repute are hanging? I don't know who needs to hear this today, but this is me. This is me calling you out to say that it is time to stop playing small. It is time to stop being weak. It is time to stop needing to be pumped up by other people regularly. It is time to decide. Decide means to cut off every other option. How many of you are ready to decide? Decide to weed yourself out of friend groups that aren't productive. Decide to choose someone to submit to and follow. Decide to stop letting yourself off the hook. Decide to stop needing constant validation from people who do not see what you see. And that was one of the biggest things, if I'm being honest, that I struggled with, the validation. When my husband didn't think it was a good idea, that could torment me for a long time. When my friends didn't think this was a good idea, it would torment me. But I tell you, when you decide, get ready. Because when there's a decision, oftentimes that's where disruption follows. Haven't you noticed that the day you decide to fast, that's when you have the appetite to eat the most? Can I get some witnesses in the house? When you decide that I'm going to start going to the gym every day and blah, 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 then that's when someone decides to take you out for a buffet lunch at your favorite restaurant to eat all the things that you're deciding to avoid. Don't you know that when you decide that you're going to be all that God's called you to be, that's when all hell breaks loose. And so I want you to now start seeing seeing that the hell that breaks loose is a sign that you've made the right decision, not the wrong one. I want you to know that when hell starts breaking loose and people start judging you, that it's not because you're in the wrong, it's because you're on the right path. I want you to know that when people start messing with your head, making you feel as though you don't know what you're doing, you're crazy, you've gone mad, it's because you're probably on the right path. I want to hear your story. I want to know what's stopping you. You see, so many of us are called to do so much more than we currently are, but we can't move forward because but we went to school together. This person was there for me from blah, blah, blah. We thank God for their life. We thank God for that season. But are they the right people to get advice from now? I'll be honest. I've also had to retire certain mentors in my life. I've also had to turn away from seeking counsel from certain people because I realized that where they've reached and where I am, The gap is no longer wide. I'm no longer challenged by it. In fact, some of them started being a little jealous of me. And it's just human nature. So you have to have the sensitivity to see, who do you need now? I was on a call with my executive coach, uh, Dion. Some of you have seen the video of me talking with Dion. I did a YouTube video with her. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you watch it, because I had a fascinating conversation about what stops many of us. And the key thing that we realized in that conversation is many people aren't willing to invest. I will invest at my own peril. I will ring fence resources to invest in what I believe will help me move to the next level. And I want you to adopt that characteristic as well. You see, I want you to win. I want everyone in this Elevate community to win at your job, win in your business, win in every aspect of your life. But if that's going to truly happen, you've got to have a different picture of who you're going to be. We're going to be the people that do the needful, not the convenient. We need to be the kind of people who don't need to be asked or told. We will find the help that we need. We will pay for it. We will incentivize others to partner with us, whatever it takes, so that we can be who God's called us to be. I don't know who needs this today, but I just felt so strongly coming into today's call that I needed you to understand that the deciding isn't just like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to manifest it and it will just come. Deciding means you cut yourself from any other possibility and you start thinking about yourself today from that place of who you want to be. What would a millionaire be doing? What would a millionaire do with their business if they were me? If I see myself walking into millionaire status, what do I need to do differently? You see, some of us, we're just happy to be thousandaires, right? We never thought we'd come this far because we make more money than everybody we know. Comfortable to be a thousandaire, comfortable to just, be the chief in the house who makes the big bucks, who brings in the cheddar, who is consulted on all the decisions. God didn't call you to be a little chief. He called you to be a nation builder, called you to influence at bigger levels. And I think what I'm sensing is that some of us have settled, and that's not what we need to do. We need to raise the bar of our ambitions. Some of you need to believe God for new friendships, believe God for mentors. I met President Sirleaf in 2014 at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And years before, in fact, 2 weeks ago, marked 19 years since she became the first woman president in Africa. And I met her at a season of my life where I did not look like much. And she was still president at the time that we met. But I said to myself, Lord, there is something in this woman that I think I need. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I believe that I will come into partnership with her. And I began to follow her closely from a distance, of course, because I didn't have access to her. But I did have the great fortune at that meeting in Davos, Switzerland, to interview her. And she tells me she doesn't remember it because this was, of course, many years ago. And as a head of state, you have like 100 meetings every day. So it's highly unlikely that you would remember. But when God gives you an open door to possibility, will you be ready? You see, they gave me the opportunity to interview her because they knew my speaking skills. They had seen me. But if I wasn't honing that gift, I wouldn't be set up for that opportunity. They knew that at the last minute, I was the one they could give this to who would do it successfully. But it was only because for 4 and 5 years prior to that moment, I was working on myself like nobody's business. I invested in Toastmasters. I invested in the protocol training. I invested in the private speech coaching. I kept investing and investing. And when the door of opportunity cracked open like this, they said, there's a woman from Ghana named Yawa. You're from West Africa, Madam President, and so is this woman. We would like her to conduct this moderated conversation with you. And the rest, as they say, is history. You see, some of you have been told that it's who you know. That is important, but it's also what value you bring to the table. Can you put that in the chat box? What value do you bring to the table? You can know people, but you bring no value to the table, so the door can't be open for you. You can have the numbers of so many people on speed dial, but if there's no value you bring to the table, the doors will remain shut. And I'm using my life as a template for what I hope will become your strategic process. That one, you will catch a vision of who God is calling you to become. And two, you will invest like crazy. Invest. If people think you're crazy, just keep investing. You will have the last laugh. Because in this room, like I said, I'm not allowed to show you who else was in the room. So I'm just showing you strategically photos of me, President Sirleaf, and that's it. But when you invest, the people who discounted you will be the ones looking for you. The people who laughed at you will be the ones seeking you out. The people who you once were chasing will come chasing you because your levels don't change, as they say. Levels don't change. Type that in the chat box. Levels don't change. See, I want to work with you all in transparency, which is why I'm letting you under the hood of my life. I want to walk with you in transparency because you might be battling the decisions that are necessary. Some of you might need to just invest in a helper to help ease your domestic load so that you can free up some time to upskill yourself. Some of you may need to invest in a coach, someone to work with you one-on-one to help you get out of your head, make a plan, and move at a speed that you need. But some of you are overthinking it. Oh, that's them and this is us. Some of you are letting the old stories get in the way. Like, that's why I wanted you to understand that I have had those same stories, but I decided, which simply means I cut myself from every other option. Are you ready to cut yourself off from any other option? Are you ready to be short-term judged, ridiculed, teased? Are you ready to make some judgment calls and say, look, even if this kills me, I am fine because I know that I am building myself up. I'm in a learning curve right now. And you know, like I was saying in our call 2 weeks ago, I'm in a learning curve with this coach that I'm in. He's making me do things. I'm learning new things that I'm not quite good at yet. I'm flexing new muscles. And you know, for all of us who lift weights, you know, I was doing my workouts this morning and I've been doing a lot of weight training because I've lost a lot of weight over the past year and now I'm trying to tone up my body. And what they taught me about the weights is that basically anytime you're lifting weights and you're doing it repetitively, you're literally breaking down the muscle. And then when it starts to heal and it repair, it bulges. That's what makes you stronger. And so that's the process that some of you have to go through right now. You have to get in the repetitions. You have to start tearing up to rebuild. Because look, there are so many people waiting on the other side of you becoming who you're meant to be. So many people waiting to hear your voice in the realm that God is giving you dominance over. But the version of you that needs to appear for that to happen needs refinement. You may need to polish your professionalism, learn new skills, learn how to, you know, for years I was praying, God, teach me how to walk with power. Teach me how to be in the midst of powerful people. I'm often mistaken to be older than I actually am, right? It's now that I've cut my hair and lost a lot of weight that people kind of are telling me I look much younger now, but I used to look much older physically, right? But I've learned because I've done protocol training, I've been submitted to mentors and guides to teach me the ways of power. Some of you have a message that people at a high level need to hear, but you don't look the part yet. You don't act the part yet. And you don't have the receipts yet. as they say. Do you have the receipts? Can you show people that you actually know what you're talking about? Is there proof attached to your name? A lot of us are saying, pour some respect on my name, but we got no proof to pour respect on. What makes you worthy to be in these environments? What makes you worthy? And I'm saying this because I know what God told me about the Elevate community, that this would be a community of people who are called to the front lines of different industries, called to lead movements, lead. And that's why I'm talking to you this way. I don't think all of you here are just followers. I think you're supposed to be leaders. I believe God's given me the grace to pour into other leaders. And this is the mindset that you need to start adapting. If you wholeheartedly accept the picture of who God is showing you you are, then you've got to decide to make the investments, to pay the price, to do the needful so that you can become that. So here ends my prepared remarks. I don't know how this sits with you. Who needed this? I'm going to stand up now. I've burned a lot of energy. I hope you don't feel offended, but I'm going to open the floor for some office hours. Talk to me. What in what I've shared today is resonating? Where are you stuck? And how can I help? Because that's what I think I'm called to do for each of you, to be a sounding board, an advisor, and someone who sheds light on some of the parts of the journey that other people don't quite let you in on. And like I said, this is a community of trust where I hope you will pick up the life transforming insights that will really help you to actually do the thing that God's called you to do. So the floor is open. I really want reactions, comments, questions. And then I really want to get to the bottom of what people are struggling with. You can use the raise hand function, and I'd be happy to call you, or you can type in the chat box. I know some of you are commuting, driving, heading home. I'm going to put on my glasses to make sure I can see everything that's being said. All right. And there was silence. I see no hands up. All right, Eunice, there you go. Eunice, please unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shara, for this. It's like awakening something in me, and it reminds me a lot about the decision I made when I decided to move from Canada to UK for my PhD. And I know very much this was like God moving me, even though to everyone it was like, why are you making this big mistake? Why you have to close down your life there and move all the way here? And why do you even need this PhD? I was dating at that time, and my boyfriend in the beginning was very supportive. In the middle of it, when things were difficult and I think I needed money or something for my health checkup because there were so many things going on. And then he's like, you can't do this, just let it go. And I was like, no, I'm not letting it go. And it became a big struggle between everyone, all the people who could support me. I knew people, I was just borrowing the money, just like you, to give it back. And nobody was willing to give me. I think it's only my uncle who is late now, who was like, I'm going to support you, I'm going to give you the money, and you're going to go to the school, and I won't take it back. And that was the only way I got that. But I had to break up with my boyfriend. I had to lose some relationships. Like people were mocking me, telling me, oh, by the time you are done, you'll be an old woman and nobody will want to marry you. So many people were making so many um, fun, I don't know, silly comments about it. But taking that step and coming here, I can see my life transform. And recently, I was just few days ago, I was thinking, oh, someone has invited me for a conference, and I'll be part of the planning team. I have to work on myself. I have to work on how I look, how I speak, and even my weight and everything. And I have to start learning on how I can develop myself so that I'm going to places where I'll meet people And I heard that God is taking you to places and you have to start preparing for it. So thank you so much for your word today. And I think, yeah, one of the things that I struggle with, like public speaking and in terms of working on myself, my outlook, and also my appearance. Yeah, my appearance. So I would want more insight on where should I start from as well. Thank you.
Mm. Oh, thank you. This is really a great example that you gave. You knew your next level required a new qualification, and you burned bridges. Your boyfriend couldn't understand, other people couldn't understand. And that's exactly what I was illustrating. That when you decide, it's not going to be easy. And that's actually why people quit, because they are looking for comfort. But are guaranteed that when we decide, it will get hard. In fact, everything that progresses goes in that order. When you start working out, you start feeling worse before you start feeling better. You feel sore and achy, and like as I raise this arm and that arm, I can feel the weight of the strength training that I've been doing the past couple of weeks, right? And then the squats, oh my goodness, the squats. I've been doing so many squats. Now I can see my thighs are thickening up and all of that. Now it's getting easier, but it does start hard before it gets easy. And that's the point I'm making. That for many of us, it's going to be short-term hard. But are you prepared to do the thing? Doing the thing comes at a price. And I'm proud of you, Eunice, and I encourage you, if you're now getting exposure and invited to speak, start working on your appearance, start, getting in shape, start practicing your speaking. Get a coach for that if you are able. And the reason why I bring up this topic is to set the stage for what I think we'll spend the next 2 months doing. I want to teach you some of the protocols and etiquettes that I think you're going to need. No matter what your technical background is, I really want us to have conversations around what I think everyone who needs to elevate will need to learn and keep close. Like I said, I certified at the Protocol School of Washington, so this is something I teach to clients. But I think the way this word was burning a hole in my heart today, I feel like it's content I need to deliver to you in this community so that we know how to hold our own as we're progressing with our goals and dreams for business and finance and whatever, that we also become the kind of people that are attractive. You've got to make yourself an attractive character. You know, God looks at the heart, but man does look at the outward appearance. And I think a big piece of what I'm noticing in this chapter of my life is, in addition to the wisdom that God's given me, I think I now appear in a much more attractive package, and people are more willing to receive it, And this may sound very judgmental, but the world has an attraction towards things that are beautiful, things that look beautiful. So one of the things that I want us to talk about is appearance and etiquette. And because of what you've mentioned, Eunice, I might also include public speaking on that. I do speakers coaching. In fact, some of my clients actually are corporate clients, and individual clients who I work with to prepare for their board meetings or speeches or things like that. In fact, sometimes I travel with them actually to go, make sure that they do a good job on a speech that they've been invited to give. So I think, as I'm meditating and praying about, like, God, what value do I bring to members of this community? I felt like that was what's on my heart today, that we've got to elevate, we've got to polish our professionalism, we've got to get ourselves in the mind space, but also in the skills space. Because no matter how advanced AI gets, people will still eat and meet and be in spaces with each other. And I think the more I focused on people, the more my career has risen. How do I interact with people? How do I practice personal diplomacy? How is it when I get in a room, what's proper to do? Because the way you carry yourself determines how people respond to you. And I want us to be an army of winning women who really, really get it done. I was also thinking, for those of you in Ghana, it might be nice for us to do like a lunch or a dinner where we do dining etiquette. I thought that might be a fun way to get together. So let me know what you think about that. But I was thinking if I could do like an in-person dining tutorial, that could be a nice addition as well. Because as you're interviewing for things or as you're, interacting, like at this event that I could only show you a few pictures of, I could see very distinguished people eating very poorly, poor table manners, poor etiquette, poor, and I felt like, well, God, I don't know, the way you possessed me to go to protocol school, the way you possessed me and put it on my heart to work with an image consultant. I think that that was just such a gift. And I'm glad that I invested. At the time, it seemed like all my life savings. At the time, it seemed like I was breaking the bank, but it has paid off manyfold. And I think that that's value I can and should create for you all. Does that sound good? I think I see some messages popping up. All right. Someone says, yay, a resounding yes to an in-person dining tutorial. All right. My Ghana people are in it to win it. Jennifer says, yes, great idea. Okay. So for those of us in Ghana, and look, I need an excuse to go back to South Africa, and maybe I'll reach out to people in South Africa to see what I might be able to do there. But a couple of other things are on my heart to do this year. I want to do a retreat in Kenya and something in South Africa. Those are the two countries that are on my heart to do something in. So, for those of you in those countries, maybe we can talk offline because, I was on a call with my coach yesterday and I told her, like, I just feel like there's something I need to do again. Last year, I did do an event in South Africa, in Kenya. We did the Standout Executive Ladies Retreat. And that went really well, but I feel like there's more to do there. So watch this space is all I'm saying, so that more opportunities to meet in person will exist this year. Vera, I see your hand is up. So good. And Rufara says, I'm welcome to South Africa. Thank you. um,
Yeah, hello, everyone, ladies, and
uh,
good day. It's been a while. I think I've missed two sessions,
yes, we
and
missed you, Vera.
yeah, so I started school, and the schedule, my because of the time difference, classes is at 2 a.m. here.
Mm.
I finished at 12, and
Uh,
literally have like 2 hours to go back to work, do
oh,
another 8 to 14 hours. So most of the time, I'll be sleeping when the meeting is going on. Either I'm sleeping or something. So I'm very sorry for missing it.
no.
It's been very challenging because I'm like the first person trying it out. We've had some resistance.
Mm,
And currently, yes, I'm still in the program, but there are talks to make me, how do you call it, defer it. But as I speak now, it is still not settled. It's
mm,
become a political thing, and yeah, but the most important thing is I still get to be in the class.
mm,
So I'm making maximizing it. And yes, I'm learning. I'm still learning. Like I said, this was more of an experimentation. I've also had some of my course mates and other people express interest in doing what I'm doing. But then, hey, it is new. So yeah. And also, just to add to what you said about paying for things this year, that's one of the things, or from the time we started the coaching session, that's been one of the things that I've been focused on. And one of my goals for this year was to get my finances right.
mm,
And paid to, I paid a firm in Nigeria, like it's a community where they sort of teach you on how to invest and everything. Yes, I've been doing business for a while, but I realized that my relationship with money was very poor. Though yes, I'm not like I don't spend, but then I just needed to get my finances well. And I actually had the first session with my personal coach today, and it was very, very insightful. So yes, paying for things that you need for like opening up yourself to new opportunities and learning is very, very paramount to where we want to go. And every time I join the coaching session or every time I listen to playback, I know that I'm in the right direction because everything you say sort of speaks to the caring child. Like, it's not been easy. I've been sick, like
Mm.
getting what you want doesn't come on a silver platter. I've been sick, I don't know whether malaria or anything, but still pushing through it, irrespective of the challenges. So thank you for doing this.
No, thank you. And thank you for the update. You're in my prayers because I know you were excited about this kind of hybrid program and you negotiated and hopped through so many hoops to get into it. So I pray that your time won't be wasted and that, whatever God's will is, be done. And I pray for your health as well, because, often when you are on the let me put it this way. Nobody speeds up when they're making a turn, for those of you who drive. When you're making a turn, you actually have to slow down to navigate the turn. And that's what I'm sensing. Some of us are in a phase where our lives are